trying to get her some tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But,
My name's Bianca.
Bianca, I'm David.
Hi. Are you from
Hey, I'm
Colombia?
Chris.
Or are you just, like, Colombian?
No,
Where are you from?
I have no idea how I ended up with this.
Or how you ended up here?
Yeah, well, I know how I ended up. What is your name?
Chris.
Chris. Hi, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
So how did you end up here?
Well, I've been here for 15 years, and I started this project about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's basically shows what is possible in the city. So it's an urban farm, but it's a little more than that. It's actually, it deals with other issues, like zero waste. It deals with community relationships. It deals with bringing fertility back to the soil. It deals with air, water, transportation, energy, community. All this is involved here. And we do something regarding each one of those here.
So what personally got you motivated to want to do something like that?
Oh, it's a long story. I was in Denmark.
Oh, yeah,
Came
you're
by
saying
here
it.
I came to this by way of Denmark, where I was there on a conference regarding straw bale. They're building with, homes, and also I saw a theater built out with straw in Belgium. And one of the sites that we visited, we went around to 8 countries visiting different sites. And one of the sites we visited had a small guest house. The guy didn't bother to talk about the house. He started talking about his site. He said, "This is a permaculture site." I said, "Perma what?" I had never heard the term before. And I said, maybe I should just shut up and see what he has to say. Because everybody around me looked like they completely understood what was he talking about, what he was talking about. So he said 3 things that got my attention. He said, this is a very cheap land because nothing was going on it, so I got it very cheap. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then he said, this goes beyond sustainability. I said, well, what is that? Sustainability wasn't even talked about that. And then he said that every year he works less and he produces more, where his neighbors actually plateaued as far as their production. So I said, oh, I never heard of anything where you work less every year that you were involved. And I said, oh, this is something that I should look into. So when I went to the conference, there was a workshop titled Introduction to Permaculture. And that's when I sat for 4 hours, and then I was converted literally.
Right then and there.
Yeah, it's a design system that learns from nature, but then you learn a lot about nature, not because of the way things look, which we call patterns in nature, but also relationships in nature, which is more fundamental, like how trees or plants interact with insects, with animals, with mushrooms, with humans, everything
Symbiotic,
works together. Yeah, so all these relationships.
How long did it take you to kind of get a good grasp on that to be able to do it yourself?
Oh, it doesn't take much because everybody has access to nature, and you learn about nature by observation. So it's the most democratic way of learning ever because everybody has access to it, and it's always evolving. So it's not about dogma or certain practices. Everybody can contribute to it.
Wow.
So it basically involves us as humans as part of nature. And we learn from nature for simple principles such as there's no waste in nature. There's nothing in nature that does one function. Everything does more than one function in nature. There's nothing like a monocrop. Nothing in nature grows like one wheat field, or you look for acres and acres and acres of corn fields. There's nothing like this in nature. So everything grows together. And what they found out is that the most resilient, diverse, and healthy systems are natural forests, yet no one interferes with them. Actually, the more you leave them alone, the better they do. So they try to do something similar where how can we apply the principles in nature to grow our own food? Can we actually grow food forests, just like natural forests? And yes, indeed, you can. And if you take some of these principles, and I only mentioned a few, and apply them to any piece of land, or a piece of property, you can arrive at an incredible amount of fertility and an incredible per square foot. We can produce more than any commercial.
So they were doing this in Denmark.
They were doing this. Actually, this is a worldwide movement now. It's a grassroots movement.
Okay.
So it works from the bottom up. It has nothing to do with governments actually. But what they found out is they When I say they, the movement started by, it's not actually a movement, it's the design science. It started by two men from Australia. Okay. And it wasn't a coincidence. In Australia, they did more damage in 100 years than any other people did on any continent.
Wow.
Yeah, they literally turned it into a desert. And they're paying the price right now. So they're sort of undoing what they were doing, they did. But by following this system here, they're actually bringing back very effectively and very fast. Because the way it works is that you help nature what nature does, but you create the conditions or provide the conditions that will allow nature to do its work without interfering. So yes, indeed, we can actually produce food year after year without planting. You know, you just let the plants go to seed, and then the seeds fall into the ground, and when the conditions are appropriate or ripe, they start growing. You know, so every year you get a crop without actually having to.
Do you mind showing us a little bit of what you have growing here?
So, you know, for instance, here per square foot, you can see so many things. You can see cabbage, you can see kale, you can see Swiss chard. You can see, and then now they're going to seed. So you let them go to this state here, and then the seed will actually dry and then fall down again, and then it will start to grow its own without us interfering with it. And actually, because they grow so close together, they repel weeds, so you can actually see there are no weeds.
Yeah.
And then by planting things together, also they repel insects, because the easiest way to repel insects is to actually confuse them by planting more than one thing, so they don't see just a target like corn and they attack the corn. You know.
How did they figure this out?
They didn't. They just started out, you know, by observing nature. They started to see, you know, what works, and they just
were patient.
Yeah, and the best thing they say is that bring, you know, a hammock, and when you start a new project, and you put it down and just sit and watch and listen. And when you start a new project, and you put it down and just sit and watch and listen.